Good evening, good morning, good afternoon, from wherever you're joining us from. I'd like to take this opportunity to welcome each and every one of you to this lecture this evening. It's a pleasure to have you all join us. We will give it 1 minute to just allow some of our colleagues to join. So allow us to start this webinar in the next 1 minute, if that's okay. So maybe just 1 minute for more people to join, and then we will go ahead and get started. Meanwhile, we can make use of the chat box to introduce ourselves. Just tell us who you are and where you're dialing in from. So yeah, so please feel warm and make use of the chat box to just tell us who you are and from where you're dialing in from. I'm supposing you can access the chat. So if you do have that function working for you, please make use of it and let us know where you are tuning in from. We'd be delighted to know who we have in the room. But that said, it's been a minute from this end, and I will pause again and welcome everybody to the webinar today. We hope that it's going to be an informative session. We encourage you to use the Q&A chat box or Q&A icon for any questions you may have for the speaker. If you do have any questions, please feel free to use the Q&A tab. The chat function can be used for any comments and the introductions. It's really nice to have you with us, Ahmad from Zanzibar, Tanzania. I hope that this session will be an informative session. Now, before we start our webinar, I will take a few minutes to introduce you to Africa Pharmaceutical Network, who is the host for this webinar. Some of you have come across who we are, some of you have not. But I hope that this small presentation will give you a better understanding of who we are. We are delighted to have more members join us and work with us. So in just a brief, the African Pharmaceutical Network is basically a platform, a network that brings together pharmaceutical professionals, stakeholders, and organizations who work in the African pharmaceutical sector. We formed the Africa Pharmaceutical Network for the purpose of sharing knowledge, shaping policy, and nurturing partnerships towards creating a robust pharmaceutical sector with the sole goal of creating reliable access to safe, efficacious, and affordable quality medicines and pharmaceutical services to the African people. So that's a small brief of the Africa Pharmaceutical Network. Our background, we were formed from, and basically what informed the formation or the creation of Africa Pharmaceutical Network was, first of all, the fact that we have very limited local pharmaceutical manufacturing capacity in the continent. And I think many of us were able to experience this weakness during the COVID-19 pandemic. And I think the narrative has been even louder just because of the inequities and the inequalities that Africa had to face, just because of how limited of capacity we have in this continent. Now, the second reason that the Africa Pharmaceutical Network was formed was just the fact that we have a segregated, or should I say fragmented, continental pharmaceutical industry operations, that range from, regulatory processes, pharmaceutical supply chain, and pharmaceutical care. For those who are are regulatory affairs professionals, I think you may appreciate this fact even more. The fragmented regulatory processes in the continent really just limit our competitiveness as a region. And I think it's time that we harmonized regulatory processes. It's time that we streamlined our supply chain and really just our pharmaceutical care. So that was the second reason that the Africa Pharmaceutical Network came to birth. Now, the third was just the lack of a common platform to drive industry-led continental agenda on development and growth of the pharmaceutical industry. We realized that we were not coming together as pharmaceutical professionals. Yes, we have the pharmaceutical associations nationally, and we also have the global FIP. But if you think about it, there wasn't any platform continentally that brought together African pharmaceutical professionals just to brainstorm and to think about how they can strengthen the pharmaceutical agenda in the continent. So those are the three backdrops that informed the formation of the Africa Pharmaceutical Network. Now, our aim is fourfold. First, and really just based on our objectives, is to foster continental knowledge sharing and workforce development within the industry. And I think I wouldn't want to belabor why this is important. Promote best practices and stimulate innovative models of service delivery in pharmaceutical industry. The good thing about bringing people together is just to learn from each other. And if you are in a country that thought that you are doing the best, then you realize there's a country that is doing better than you. And so that's the need to upgrade. So we hope that through APN, we can promote best practices and also just stimulate those innovative models of service, champion for responsive market-driven policies and regulatory frameworks in the African pharmaceutical industry, also just in line with the So once the policies are set in that level, then it's easy for implementation to happen. Then the fourth was to stimulate investments in the African pharmaceutical industry. Once all these things are done, the competitiveness of Africa is increased, then you attract investors in that way. So those are the aims of APN. Now, the next slide will just have me take you through I hope, sorry, I think we just have a small lag there. Our priorities. Our priorities are three, and this is just an emphasis on our objectives, our aims, pharmaceutical workforce development. There's a need to strengthen that in the continent, business ecosystem supports, and policy shaping. So those are our three focus areas. And if I was to go into them one by one, how we hope to do all this is to create or organize or convene industry discussion forums that brings together all industry experts and stakeholders. Also carry out training and experiential learning opportunities, which I think is one of the things that we may now be known for the trainings that we are currently offering towards our goal and our vision. Policy advocacy and environment shaping, we also do this quite a bit, and we will go in depth in just a minute. And then there's the market intelligence and technical support to stakeholders. Stakeholders who are interested in Africa, we also are offering market intelligence and technical support to them. We have a team. So our team is composed of an advisory board, the secretariat that runs the day-to-day runnings of the network, and then we have the leadership team. So as you can see in the screen, those are the board members, the three board members, including John Paul, Secretariat. He's led by a powerful team of Dr. Lucy and Miss Juliet, and the rest form the leadership team, just a bunch of pharmacy professionals based here in Nairobi, Kenya, working in various sectors who've just come together to offer leadership towards the Africa Pharmaceutical Network. The next slide. I'll just also highlight some of our partners. We work very closely and supported by the Worldwide Federation of Pharmacists, the FIP, International Federation of Pharmacists. We also have IPMA, H3D Foundation, Bloom Public Health, Empower Swiss, who we have done some trainings with, some webinars with, African Pharmaceutical Forum, Culture, and the SPAC. So these are just a glimpse of some of the partners that we are currently working with. We have a focus on Africa, and of course, just based on our name, the African Pharmaceutical Network. And on your screen, you can just see the countries that we have worked in, the countries that we are interested in, the countries that even we have had conversations about various things with. So we are present in the countries that are highlighted dark blue, and we hope that one day we will be present in the entire Africa. I'll now just quickly go to our offering. Our offering, like I said, we are very keen on, or rather our focus areas or our priority is pharmaceutical workforce development. And of course, our guiding principle is just the fact that we know for a fact that the growth of the industry, the pharmaceutical industry in Africa, will only happen if we build quality, if we build competence pharmaceutical professionals. So that we feel is at the core of the growth of the pharmaceutical industry. And we are trying to do this by offering trainings and also workshops and industry forums. The trainings, we have various courses, including courses around regulatory affairs, which we have been offering for a very long time. We also have courses in pharmacovigilance and patient safety, in pharmaceutical quality insurance, supply chain management, global health pharmacy, digital health and data science, pharmaceutical management, and industry leadership. Now, I also just mentioned this so that if you're listening and you're interested in any course, then please feel free to get in touch with APN, and we'll be able to register and build your capacity. In terms of workshops and industry forums, we are currently coordinating and facilitating industry workshops, including policy caucuses geared towards skills development, supporting product launches, formulation of policy positions, gathering market intelligence and insights on key topics. Now, I hope that this is enticing to you, because our dream is to co-opt as many pharmaceutical professionals as possible to be part of this network. The more we are, the greater the force will be. The more skilled we are, the more beneficial we will be to the growth and to the growth and success of the continents. I'll really not run through the rest of the courses. That's just a highlight of the courses that form part of our pharmacy academy. Actually, our dream is to one day maybe, have a pharmacy academy where we provide specialized training to pharmacy professionals. We are currently offering regulatory affairs trainings. Our courses generally are 3-month courses offered once every week. Wednesdays, Thursdays, and for regulatory affairs, we are currently on cohort 2 for this year. We just started supply chain management and pharmacovigilance and patient safety. So if you're interested, please come and link up with us. We are accredited also by the Pharmacy and Poisons Board. So we also do offer CPD points for some of some engagements we hold and we convene. Next slide, please. In terms of business ecosystem support, here basically our offering is that we are offering regulatory and clinical research services. And of course, our guiding principle here is just the fact that we hope that Africa can have reliable access to safe, effective, and quality medicines and health technologies. And of course, predicated on efficient regulatory systems and processes. Now, under this, we have the regulatory services arm, and we have the clinical trials and pharmacovigilance services arm, under regulatory, we are supporting companies introduce their products into new markets through offering regulatory intelligence, regulatory filing of applications and following up for approvals, and lifecycle maintenance of regulatory processes. Under clinical trials and pharmacovigilance services, we are also supporting companies with clinical trials management. And our services basically are clinical trial application filing, including ethical submissions, clinical research monitoring, patient safety monitoring for patient access programs, and incident management. Now, in conclusion, under the market intelligence and research and business support services, we basically our guiding principle is just the fact that we know that organizations need support unlocking possibilities for their businesses, guided by, some market research, some market insight. So because we consider ourselves professionals in that sector, then we are offering business support services and talent management and recruitment, market research, market intelligence, business development, pharmaceutical marketing, project management, patient programs, knowledge management, and corporate training. Now, I've just run through those, hoping that if you're interested in working together with us, please just and you feel like we can partner together. We're also just looking for partnerships. We're looking for members to join our network. Please feel free to reach out to us. And then just winding it down, partnerships and policy advocacy. Policy advocacy is also one of our focus areas. Our priorities are just issues to do with policies, regulatory harmonization work in the continent. I'm sure many of you have heard of African Medicine Agency and its operationalization. We're currently working to call for more countries to ratify the AMA Treaty. Luckily, we have gotten to a number where operationalization can start, So we are also just trying to advocate, for the support in the development of some of the key structures as AMA is put into place. Issues to do with development of frameworks for the implementation of the Africa Continental Free Trade Area, local pharmaceutical manufacturing in Africa, issues to do with substandard and falsified medicines, regulatory frameworks, ethical business practices in pharmaceutical sector. So those just fall under all our policy priorities. Strategic partnerships, we're working very closely and we hope to partner with as many national regulatory authorities as possible. We're also focusing on multilateral agencies who run or who are in charge of some of these continental policies, So bodies like Africa CDC, AUDA, NEPAD, COMESA, AGAD, etc. Development partners also are of our interest and professional trade associations, which I know many of us are a part of, and university and research institutions. So that's basically a summary of our offering as Africa Pharmaceutical Network. Now, I wouldn't want to take too much of your time, but I hope that gives you a better picture. If you've just been somewhere and hearing about Africa Pharmaceutical Network, but never knowing who we are and what we offer, I hope that small presentation has enticed you a bit and that you are in a place where you long to work with us. But yeah, we do accept members, we do offer trainings, and we would be delighted to work with you in one area or another. Now, I'll put us to a pause and shift back to our webinar for this week. Now, our webinar today will be presented to us by a speaker who is a well-known pharmacist here in Kenya. So for those of you who are based in Kenya, I am sure you have come across her name in various places. So our speaker today is Dr. Dorothy Aywak. She is currently the head of pharmacovigilance, poisons and drug information at the Kenyatta National Hospital. For those who may not know, Kenyatta National Hospital is the largest referral hospital here in Kenya. She is a pharmacist by profession and pursued her bachelor's of pharmacy and master of pharmacy in pharmacoepidemiology and pharmacovigilance at the University of Nairobi. She currently works, as I said, at Kenyatta National Hospital, serving in the capacity of the head of pharmacovigilance, poisons, and drug information. So she is a pharmacovigilance expert. And I hope that many of us are interested in that field, given that we have joined this lecture. Now, besides her passion in providing safe and efficacious medicines and implementing patient safety systems, she's an advocate for continuous learning and professional development, having supervised so many interns in her capacity. Dorothy has an unwavering support for empowering healthcare professionals through leadership development. She's an active member of various professional societies, including the Pharmaceutical Society of Kenya, which is the body that brings together pharmacists in Kenya, the International Society of Pharmacovigilance and International Society of Pharmacovigilance, that's another body, and Hospitals Pharmacists Association of Kenya, also known as HOPAC, also based here in Kenya, where she serves as the National Secretary. It's a delight to have her work with us to deliver this webinar. So I will just now hand it over to her. Dr. Aywak, if you can hear me, you're welcome to now deliver your lecture. And for the rest of us, in case you have any trouble, please let us know by use the chat box, use the Q&A function for any questions you may have. But I'll just pause here and hand it over to you, Dr. Aywak. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Esther. I want to hope my internet is going to be steady, but in case, because I'm seeing some notifications, in case the internet is unsteady, letting me change.
Okay. You could also just switch off your video for better bandwidth.
Yes,
if
I'll do that.
Like. Yeah.
Okay. Do that. So I'll first I want you to confirm that you could actually see my screen. You can see my screen?
Yes, we can see your screen. Go ahead.
Okay. Okay, so thank you so much for that kind introduction and even just for the opportunity to come and share with the team. So I'm truly humbled that you reached out. So without much further ado, I'll just take you slowly through the career opportunities in pharmacovigilance. And I'm happy to see there are also others who are not from Kenya who have joined. I might be having a lot more to talk more in the Kenyan context, but I hope that you will still find value. So as she had mentioned, I work at the Kenyatta National Hospital. It's a referral teaching hospital, based at the capital city, Nairobi. And I've been there for about 20 years now. So this will just be basically the outline that I will use for the presentation to just take us through. And I'm hoping that you're going to find something of benefit from it. So as I give this talk, that I give an idea about my career path. How did I get to pharmacovigilance? So interestingly, it's just a series of just choices at different points in career that made me get interested in pharmacovigilance. So when I joined Kenyatta in 2005, sometimes I say Kenyatta, sometimes KNH, at some point, 2 years in, there was a request to take over, to start looking at poor quality concerns and the like, and adverse drug reactions, but not really spelled out clearly, but just at patient safety issues not articulated very clearly. And so you're just trying to muddle through and figure out how you're going to do that. And then the Pharmacy and Poisons Board in 2009 had this launch for pharmacovigilance. And I was in that training when they were just launching now the guidelines and of PV and getting those who are attending that forum to be to implement pharmacovigilance in their settings. So I remember that time it was interesting thought. It's not something that I thought about when I was doing my undergrad as something I could do, but I found it interesting and the passion that the one who was sharing at that time, Dr. Jai, set up pharmacovigilance as a unit within the Pharmacy and Poisons Board. His passion is what actually drove me to take an interest in pharmacovigilance. So after that training, I was tasked to now be documenting or following up or building capacity so that we can be having the documentation of adverse drug reactions and poor quality medicines. At the start, that's what we're basically focusing on. So you would hear a lot about pink forms, yellow forms, and trying to get people to take up the same. Then in 2013, I decided to take up the Masters of Pharmacovigilance, Pharmacoepidemiology and Pharmacovigilance Master's program that was at the University of Nairobi. We were the second cohort. And since then, I have kept on looking at any training opportunities, conferences that can be able to build my capacity in the area of pharmacovigilance, and as much as possible share what it looks like to and just participate with others to see how we can grow this field. And I've actually found it quite enjoyable. Now, for me, that is my path in terms of coming from the hospital setting. In the interactions, getting about to conferences like the Society of Pharmacovigilance, I met this very brilliant lady, Dr. Jerusha Kamau, who now has taken PV as step mother. She's a consultant. She does pharmacovigilance consultancy. And for her, she started off, she did her internship at the Machakos Hospital. Machakos now is not, for those who are not Kenyans, it's some, I don't know, roughly, it's a town not too far from Nairobi. But she did her internship there, and she was keen on drug safety issues. She had a keen interest in that. And then she went to community practice. And after 15 years of community practice, she decided to venture into now pharmacovigilance consultancy and look for opportunities for postgraduate diplomas in pharmacovigilance and regulatory affairs. She's also doing now a master's in pharmacovigilance and pharmacoepidemiology. So it's very interesting when I met with her, different things, but the thing that was a common is that we all got an interest in patient safety and trying to look at how do we now grow this into something a lot more than just reporting. So when we say we seek out opportunities for training, what is it that this professional needs to have in terms of essential skills? Because you realize when you're looking at PV data, it's a lot of safety data. Maybe you're looking at quality concern complaints, you're assessing medication errors, like that's what would be most of the data we generate within health facilities is more likely to be, you'll have quite a chunk of it being medication errors. You have also the adverse drug reactions in case there are mass drug administration programs, or like the time we had the vaccination campaigns, you'll have a lot of events reported from that. So you need to be able to have skills to be able to analyze, to synthesize information and data that you get. A lot of time you'll find yourself working alone, or it is not the only responsibility you have. Besides being the PV specialist, you also need to be a member. Besides being like now responsible for the and safety aspects, you might find yourself also having other roles within your institution. Because a lot of times you find a PV professional will have to multitask. So you need to know how are you going to manage different projects, because at the end of the day, all this they have a way that they contribute to working with you. You need to learn how to be a good team player. A lot of time you'll find that you have to just find some inspiration even when you have a lot of pressure, and being able to manage with tight deadlines. Because when there's an incident, I'll give an example of when there's a patient safety concern, maybe there's a product complaint, and you need a critical item for management. Let's say if there's a problem with oxytocin that you require in your labor ward, and you need to get to make a decision very quickly about how you're going to address the concern, so that now you don't interfere with the care, because you cannot keep if it is another, you cannot keep them waiting until you make a decision. So a lot of times you have to find how to work within tight deadlines, and also how to just be able to get a drive even when you're working under pressure. It's important for you to know how you can be versatile and just at different, have some capacity in terms of scientific expertise. You need to know how do you review information, how where do you even get the information you're reviewing. Vaccines tend to be highly emotive, so you need to know how you're going to communicate that. And in communication, that means you need to know how you're going to actually speak. So whether if you're a French-speaking country, you need to be able to have fluency in that language to be able to effectively communicate. You'll have to do a lot of organization around your work habits, because a lot of times, sometimes you have periods where incidences are just occurring left, right, center, and you need to know how you're going to plan your work so that deliver very good information to the teams, clear, concise information, address also worries that people might be having. So there's I'd say a lot of skills tend to be soft skills, a good mix of soft skills, and now what it is you can actually literally train yourself to do. So these skills, let's say now, if I was to summarize what competencies a pharmacovigilance specialist should have to make decisions, should be able to make sound decisions, because again, this is a patient safety matter that's on the line. So you need to be able to guide, you need to be able to solve a problem. If it is let's say it's a medicine or a device that is not working, you need to be able to provide a solution. So what do you do in the meantime? Do you sit and look at each other until you get the regulator to give you direction, or can you come up with a solution that can be able to hold brief as you're waiting for a response from your regulatory authority? You need to know how to communicate interpersonal skills with different kinds of, it is your supervisors, or it is external clients, or it's the regulatory authority. You need to know how you're going to be able to communicate with them and build trusting relationship. And then you also need to be able to advise on any matters related to pharmacovigilance. What do we do when there's a patient? So how do you get to that point where you're now building those competencies? A lot you'll find as you're doing your routine work, you can build these skills, but you can also additionally go and train. And I've just presented just options of where you possibly train. I did my training at the University of Nairobi. I know they have a master's program in pharmacoepidemiology and pharmacovigilance. There is also other online or blended learning trainings like the EU2P. And Esther has taken us through also that also APN has trainings in pharmacovigilance. So there's no shortage of options of where you can go and train and build your skills. And the idea behind building the skills, and especially the specialty itself, is because you're going to look at how medicine is being used in the population so that you can guide, and then also check on drugs monitoring. And now when you have these skills, there's the beauty I find about pharmacovigilance is that there's no shortage of places that you can work in. The areas of practice are so diverse. You can work in hospital, you can go into health policy, you can go into health economics, to be in academia and research or pharmaceutical marketing. I like to think of pharmacovigilance as that specialty that gives you an option to just grow in any area, any space, because it gives you a very broad way of thinking, and you can tailor the skill sets that you have depending on what you have. So if I go to the setting I currently am in, which is a hospital setting, and try to help you see how can you actually utilize your skills in that healthcare setting. I wanted to start adopting the term. Before we are used to say move to medicine, and now we want to start using the terminology health products and technology. So I want to hope you will see HPT appearing in the slides, but a number of times we would hear some terminologies the way we have been used to saying them, or medicine use evaluation. So you pardon me if I keep moving across those terms. So when we're looking at utilization of health products and technology, you get your training, or even your training exposes you to being able to look at how you can assess medicine use patterns over time, looking at the quantities, trends, how the costs have been changing. Then you can be able to also assess terms of medicine use, or both the beneficial and desired outcomes of that medicine use. You can now, with that evaluation, you can be able to look at the clinical and economic consequences of new policies. I'll give an example because I want to imagine most of us are coming from African countries. And African countries will say, if, like, say, the treatment for malaria changes, it'll have an implication on your budget, because you need to know, have you planned for that new treatment? Say we stop using AL and pick a different molecule. There are clinical and economic consequences of that. So you can be able to evaluate that. And also, it helps you develop and implement risk management plans. If you're going to change policies, if you find out about undesired effect of medicines, then you can go back and look at now how can you mitigate against that. Then it's also very, you find a very big role when you're looking at the procurement process, because you will have training that helps you build capacity in being able to do forecasting and supply planning, with the idea of making sure that you minimize costs as much as possible during procurement and supply of drugs. And here, cost minimization, that is the cheapest form, the cheapest medicine. Cost minimization is giving what it is the best product, uh, uh, based on, you look at the best product, the best value for that amount of money, and what is going to give the patient the best outcomes. So you probably look at what medication that you look long term reduces risk of possible other adverse effects from by affecting a different system. So it's a lot more than just looking at how much does a medicine cost. Then you also promote the quality assurance of products and ensure that there's also adherence to legal processes. So if you need a product needs to be registered to be in the market, that is an area that you need to, that's an area that you can contribute in. Then also within hospitals, you tend to find a number of hospitals have medicine and therapeutics committees. And here, you in being able to monitor and evaluate treatment practices. You can also review appropriateness of prescribing in your area, review medication errors, participate in formulary development, or even review of guidelines. You can also establish services, such as poison information services, maintain databases for medicine safety, and support being able to promote post-market surveillance, not only for public health programs, but for any products that you have within your facility. So for those, since I'm happy that APN also has some courses in regulatory areas, and you think if when you want to add more training or build your capacity in pharmacovigilance and you're in the regulatory space, there's also a lot that you can do. You can participate in reviewing safety data, and here, especially when you're looking at clinical safety data, looking at how the safety of medicine after it has been licensed in the market, just looking at the information that you're getting to detect if there are any signals and do critical review of literature on safety. So there's a lot in being able to just go through data mining that can guide you on how you're going to manage a product that's in the market or about to get into the market. You can also just look at how a medicine is being actually used in clinical practice, and that can guide whether you need to come and change a practice. Here, I think about a scenario when we had some cough syrups that had been for a long time over the counter, but because of the learning about the abuse of this cough syrup, the codeine containing cough syrups, now they became prescriptions in actual practice. Then you can be able to guide policy changes and also develop surveillance strategies in a proactive way, so that now instead of waiting to see a new medicine is in the market, waiting until you get the complaints about that medicine, you can actually proactively look out for the thing. Now, within regulation, you'll hear regulatory affairs and pharmacovigilance. So for pharmacovigilance, there's the periodic safety data reports that are generated. There's also the individual case safety report. Right. So there's the individual case safety, and you have to also participate in data mining to find out now these medicines that we have, what are the benefits that we have that are being experienced and any adverse effects. So I hope we are together.
Yes, yeah.
Okay. Virtually, you're not too sure whether you still have people in the room with you. Okay. So looking at public health, because again, I said in pharmacovigilance, you have a big, you have various areas of practice. It is not a limiting specialty. You have various areas of practice that you can be able to be able to apply your skills. So within public health programs, you're thinking those in the malaria program, HIV program, TB, any public health program, vaccines. You can also go about looking at medicine use evaluation in that setting and be able to guide the program. Say you have changed therapy, you can do cohort event monitoring to see, is there any signals that are of concern that you need to be able to address? And also when there are changes in treatment, so how do you go about that? How do you go about monitoring to see whether those changes are active? Dosages to be reviewed because you've realized the events that are being reported patients are guiding, are indicating that there has to be some change. Otherwise, you probably have, like if I give an example of the HIV program, for a long time, we had been, during the training, at least the on-job training for HIV, we used to give epavirenz at a dose of 600 milligrams. The good thing with the programs would actively monitor and document any adverse events. Then you come and find that actually 600 milligram was too high a dose for our population. So that's where pharmacovigilance would help you. Ensuring that also the commodities are available consistently in public health programs is important. So because when you think about the various, we're not going to look at the types of adverse drug reactions, but when you look at the various adverse drug reactions, there's one that is from end of use. So now you cannot be able, you do not have treatment, you do not have the medication you need, so you have an adverse event because the patient cannot be on treatment. So almost like withdrawal, but now we'll look at if a patient was to be on TB treatment, and you are not able to ensure that the supply of the anti-TBs, then you're going to impact the patient outcome. So ensuring that there's actually access to a commodity to meet the needs of the program is very key, and that's a role that you should be able to play. And also the products that are there, the health products and technology need to be able to meet a particular quality standard. So you're there to make sure that they actually meet quality standards. And where there is a complaint, you're able to address this using the right channel, collaborating with regulatory bodies to ensure that you always have the safe products, safe and effective products in the market. You can also, in the field of research, you can be one of those who at cost effectiveness, cost benefit, cost utility. So the pharmacoeconomics, when we are coming deciding on including a particular treatment option among your guidelines, are we able to actually afford it as whether it is as a country or afford it as a facility? So you can be able to do a medication to decide what was the best use of your resources. You can also do cohort event monitoring. You've introduced new treatment, so you follow up the patients on that treatment and see if there's anything new that you need to that comes up that was not noticed at the point of clinical trials, and also participating in clinical trials where you are monitoring those who are the study participants to check if there's anything, any events that arises, so that now these are quickly documented and communicated and becomes part of the literature regarding that medication. So the scope for that is in terms of in the healthcare space. And if you decide you want to now go into consult, what is it that you'd do as a consultant? So very happy to have the benefit of interacting with Dr. Jerusha, because the scope is actually quite wide. You can participate in audits and inspection. You can be doing individual case processing for events that have been reported. You can do literature so that now you can be able to update the patient's periodic safety update reports. You can do training in pharmacovigilance for the institution that you're consulting for, their staff team. You can help them in documenting standard operating procedures. Now, when you're looking at case management, here you can go about collecting data and doing the causality process so that you can know that case that has been reported. Can you say it is can be attributed to a particular product that maybe that company has? And the risk minimization procedures, you help your client to set that up, to also put together quality management systems for pharmacovigilance, developing the PV master files. So the scope for a consultant is just as wide as you would like it to be, because the beauty when you're consulting, you know there are various areas of practice that people can come to you to consult, and now your service will be based on what it is you can do. So as I am getting towards, and I hope I have not rushed you through, there is AI. We cannot run away from talking about artificial intelligence. What is AI? That is, it's a simulation of human intelligence, computer system. So when you're talking about AI, and a number of us would know the chat GPT, but now there's a whole range of products now of machine, where there's machine learning, so that now it can be able to give you data in a way that sounds as close to a human as possible. And now, why would we want to leverage on AI? I'm not too experienced in this field, but I had the opportunity to listen to a talk by Mohammed Fouda from Saudi Arabia, who has a keen interest in AI in pharmacovigilance. And from that, now I gleaned that you can use AI in terms of data-driven analysis. If you might imagine, if you have a lot of paper reports, or even if they are on an Excel or whatever database, if you have to go through it as a person, it takes quite a lot of time. So AI helps you to process large volumes of data. So it has efficiency and consistency, because you just plug in repetitive tasks, and with the formula, it's able to look through your data, identify signals, and then be able to give you, to help you now make informed decisions. So AI is quite a wonderful tool, and you will apply it especially when you're looking at PV in signal detection and management. Because a lot of time we have large data sets, or even just such amorphous data sets, like saying you want to scan through tweets, social media, Facebook, and just try and identify people are complaining about a particular product or a vaccine or any health technology. But now, how many channels are you going to log into to be able to scan every tweet, listen to every piece of news? But now with AI, that will simplify that for you, because you can be able to run through different data sets, picking for keywords, and then can identify for you actually reports from a of sources, and that reduces the time that you spend. And it also, with the algorithms, you can be able to improve your accuracy and be able to now get actually really good data that can support your decision making. So examples of how signal detection has been done is like now for the FDA, they use it to when they scan.
Doc, I think we lost you.
Okay, it seems like I got disconnected. I don't know at what point I got lost. I just realized I was out. Uh, Esther?
Yeah, thanks so much, Dr. Aywak. Um, thank you a lot. I can hear you.
I don't know. Oh, okay, so I
Yeah,
don't know.
you're
I
back.
think I just realized yeah, that I'd run out. So, okay, it's using backup internet now that one has decided to be disappointing. But I hope, did I lose you at this point?
Yeah, this was the point you left us at.
Okay, so anyway, this Uh, okay, so now basically just trying to encourage us to, for those who were particularly interested in AI, this is an area you can explore, because you can use it now to optimize data and just learn a lot more about the different AI techniques and how you can be able to leverage on those systems. I think it's a beautiful field to get into, and for it can be able to help us now, especially when you're saying, because for PV, you are looking at collecting data and you're looking at making those decisions as quickly as possible. You don't want to delay with patient safety, with being able to inform patient safety. So now AI would be a very good, I would encourage those who are new in pharmacovigilance or have the energy. That's an area that it'd be very nice if you explore. It is, I think it's not heavily tapped into, and can help you look at, like I say, real world data, be able to do collaborative data sharing. So you collect, this is Africa now, across the continent. What are we finding about our population, and be able to generate data and scale those solutions. So for those who are very keen on AI, I say that is not my expertise. You can be able to look up Mohammed Fuda. He's very interested in this area, and he can be able to guide you on the same. But otherwise, as I close, I want to acknowledge Dr. Sonia Thu, who's currently at Kenyatta, and Dr. Jerusha Kamau, the lead consultant for JFlex Consultants, for the part they played in helping me prepare for this session. And I'm hoping that it has added value for those who have joined. So I will stop sharing and hand the meeting back to you, Esther.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Dr. Aywak, for that presentation. I hope that it's been beneficial to us. I'll now just pause here for any questions. Any questions you may be having from the from the audience, I don't see any questions in the Q&A tab, but we have an opportunity for those who may want to ask their questions, verbally. Then you can just raise your hand and we will allow you to speak. So just putting it out there that if you do have any questions, please raise your hand and we'll be able to identify you and allow you to unmute and speak through your mic. So I see Dr. Jerusha's hand. I have allowed you to unmute your mic, Dr. Jerusha. So if you can just do that and speak over your microphone.
Thank you, Esther, and thank you, Dorothy, for that very informative presentation. It actually feels like we are in a master's class of PP. Thank you very much. My question is concerning your experience in hospital pharmacy. I don't know whether there has been any studies about the other hospitals, because my experience is that many of the hospitals, especially the public hospitals, and maybe I don't know what level the Kenyatta is, you find that the PV function is not very well developed. So my question is, how have you as an expert maybe participated in developing those PV functions in those other hospitals, and what advice would you give to the staff manning that function, based on your experience, what they can do to ensure that they survive in that very not so made up function in their hospitals? Thank you.
Thank you very much. And Dr. Jerusha is actually the lead consultant I'm talking about of JFlex. So thank you. So within the hospital, you find that for PV, like even currently at my hospital, the unit just has one, as in just a one person unit. So you have to grow it. So I found to make it for you to actually grow, in that you have to find a way of bringing others in to help you deliver the work. So you find you have to do a lot of training, also get buy-in from the rest of your colleagues, so that now the PV functions, like now I'll say 3 critical things that we keep on emphasizing on, that people should be able to identify quality concerns with medication. They should be able to try and identify adverse drug reactions and document them, and medication errors, to make them part of routine work. Or routine reports. So you have to find a way of getting it into the system as a standard, like now standard reportable reports. You find a way of getting those activities that are within PV to be part of standard reports. So how trying to encourage other facilities. The Pharmacy and Poisons Board has appointed county PV focal persons in every county. And a number of these are, actually, I think all of them work within a health institution. So now when they bring us together and we share experiences of what it is we are doing in our various facilities, is one way of getting the other hospitals to be able to do the same. And also appreciating that you don't look at PV as only that aspect of looking for the reports. Even commodity security, ensuring commodity security is PV. Just looking at how you can breathe PV into every aspect of the work that you have. And then now, you see, and also in terms of when there's a safety concern, responding quickly. Because I realize if you take so long to give feedback, people are not interested in PV anymore. But the more you respond in a timely manner, then now you build that confidence, and people now want to hear more about what it is you do in PV. I want to hope I've answered you, Jerusha.
Yes, thank you. I have one more question, if Esther, you allow me. Okay, so my next question is, I believe in the hospital you have a lot of data from the medical fields. How have you used that data to promote risk prevention rather than risk management? Just your experience.
Okay, now actually I think the data with Kenyatta on its own may not be that much in terms of risk. You tend to find you get that when there's an incident, and then you have to find a way of mitigating. But to be able to to prevent an event. We have not collected so much enough information that you are able to prevent to find yourself putting preventive strategies, except now in the area of look-alike, sound-alike medications. Because that now, with the continuous reports now, at least we found the board this year has now taken it up to actually go through the facilities and identify what are these, I'll say, LASAs, look-alike, sound-alike in facilities, and carry out a survey to just look at the extent of the problem with the view of being able to see how to prevent it. But what we do, because we are aware it is happening, now we have systems like having labels that can alert you that now if you see that LASA label on a drug, then now it makes you have to think there must be another medicine that looks similar to this. So let me double check again, maybe even triple check before I dispense the medication. So I would say in that area of look-alike, sound-alike is where we've been able to put preventive strategies. But a lot of the others, like in terms of adverse drug reactions and quality concerns, you tend to have to mitigate after it has happened because you don't have a lot of data to as yet. Thank you.
Thank you. I think that's an opportunity for the APN association to look into that and see if they can collect data from different facilities and come up with some conclusions that can help to prevent some of the common adverse events rather than wait to manage them. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. We've taken note of that. Thank you for your question, Dr. Jerusha. Anyone else who may have a question, who would like to speak? I think I see a comment on the chat. I'll just read it out as I wait for anyone who'd like to raise their hand.